So we got 3 chefs with 3 chicken recipes. It's a cage match. We got ourselves a chicken cage match. Fight. So welcome back to my home, all you lovely people. It's a very special episode today, as I'm taking Julia Child, Marcella Hazan, and Thomas Keller in his ginormous cookbook. What all 3 of these people have in common is that they've been heavily featured on my channel, some more so than others, although that book sleeve has never been on that cookbook. Not on this show. Now, something all 3 of these people in these cookbooks have in common is beloved, well-known, dare I say, simple and straightforward roast chicken recipes. And I thought, let's put all 3 of them to the test. Make each one of them, one after the other, see who comes out on top. I'm gonna give each one an overall rating, see how it goes. So it's Julia versus Marcella versus TK, chicken cage match. May the best recipe win. I'm sure they're all very great. But for dramatic purposes, let's see what happens. I'm gonna start with Jules. First up, we got Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking, Volume 1. Now, Julia was known to be a roast chicken fanatic. She says here, you can always judge the quality of a cook or a restaurant by roast chicken. While it does not require years of training to produce a juicy brown, buttery, crisp-skinned, heavenly bird, it does entail such a greed for perfection that one is under compulsion to hover over the bird, listen to it, above all, see that it is continually basted and that it is done just to the proper turn. So this recipe is the only one that I've actually made once before, but it's been quite a while, so let's do it again. So with this full chicken here, sprinkle a 1/4 teaspoon of salt into the cavity. Take a tablespoon of softened butter, smear it on the inside. It's Julia Child style, right? With a trussing needle and some string, first through the lower carcass, under the legs, over the drumstick, through the tip of the breastbone, over the other drumstick. Where the second joint and the drumstick join, push the needle through. There it is. Turn the chicken onto the breasts, fold the wings behind like it's being handcuffed. Go through one wing, catch the neck skin, and then through the second wing. Need a grip, I need a grip. Ah! Yes, that's great. Draw the string tightly together and tie. Pat dry, dry it thoroughly. Tablespoon of softened butter, smear it all over the outside. Slather it up. Quickly slice up some carrots, some onion. This is my favorite pan. It's a shallow roasting pan, just large enough to hold the chicken easily. Breast sides up. Strew the vegetables, which is sliced onion and carrot, all around. This is ready to roast, but first I want to thank today's sponsor, Anova. Anova Culinary is here to make it super simple for you to cook like a pro at home with easy to use and affordable pro-level kitchen tools. Like my new baby right here, the Anova Precision Oven. Nice to meet you. Because up until now, precision's a word that's never been said in my videos. But from steaming to air frying to roasting to bread proofing to baking and even sous vide style meals without a bag, this combi oven really does everything. And it turns on. Knowing the accurate temperature of my oven is something that I think I trust my oven a little too much with that information. But if I look at that display right there, well, the guessing game is now over because that is telling me the exact oven temperature. And if I open the door, ooh, it readjusts. And also this food probe tells me exactly how my food is cooking at all times. Of course, there's an app for that. From controlling and monitoring the temperature of both the oven and my food to the growing library of recipes to follow where I can start cooking with a tap of this button. Anova and I have this top secret surprise for you at the end of this video, so you gotta stay tuned for that. But this is what I was thinking. I've had the oven for a while now and I actually really like it. So why don't we do this? Put the beast into the cage match along with the chickens. It's gonna be 3 birds, 1 oven. Let's go. Julia says to preheat the oven to 425 degrees F. However, since I'm using the convection settings on this beast, I'm gonna set it to 415 instead. Get that in so it's like situated in the middle of the oven. Now for those first initial 5 minutes, it was breast side up, and then after 5 minutes, I turned it left side up, and then after another 5 minutes, right side up. 2 tablespoons of melted butter with 1 tablespoon of oil. And after every turn, I gotta baste it. Okay, so after those 15 minutes, I gotta turn the oven temperature down to 350, but again, another 10 degrees below that, so 340, using the convection settings on here. After around 8 minutes, switch it to breast side up. Kind of feels convoluted at times, but the technique with Julia's recipe is to always be rotating and basting every 8 to 10 minutes until this chicken's done. Every time I want to have this upright on its side, I have to lean it up against the side of the pan. So it is causing quite a mess, but you know, WWJD. Halfway through, we're gonna salt up the chicken. Onto the other side, I had that melted butter and oil on reserve. Once I've exhausted all of that, just baste with what's ever on the bottom of the pan. Okay, and you go back in. Bye-bye. All of this rotating and basting is kind of pointless when I'm using this oven, because with this it has the sous vide function, and then I could just have that going for the entire duration. No need to rotate and baste, and at the end, if I want to brown the chicken, turn the convection setting on. But we're not doing that. We're following Julia's words here. And she wants me to rotate and baste. We're gonna do breast side up for the rest of this cook. Now there is a probe for this oven. I'm gonna use that for some of the other recipes. I'm gonna use the thermometer for this one. This bird is done. So I missed one salt opportunity while it was in the oven because it was done earlier than expected. Julia says it would take an hour to 10 to 20 minutes and an hour. So yeah, good job. All right, I'm gonna let that hang out in the platter for a bit, 5 to 10 minutes, and I gotta make one of these classic Julia Child sauces. Not necessary for today's purposes, but why the hell not? She says to remove all but 2 tablespoons of fat from the pan. I don't know what the point of the carrots and the onions were, quite honestly, unless it was flavoring up the fat. Probably, I guess. I don't know. Someone will tell me. Over here, into the cooking fat goes half a teaspoon of shallot. I'm guessing around medium heat for 1 minute. 1 cup of beef stock. Boil it. Scraping up all the fawn, right? Reduce until everything is around half a cup worth. 1 hoot of pepper and a touch of salt. Off the heat. Ow, that's hot. 1 to 2 tablespoons of softened butter. Let's start with 1. Always be conservative. So you just gotta swirl in the enrichment butter until it has absorbed. And pour that sauce into there. Get the chicken onto the cutting board. Remove the trussing string. And you know what? That's an order up. Part 1. All I've done for the purposes of today is cut this chicken up into quarters. The other roast chicken recipes do not have a sauce that goes along with it. This is a Julia special, and it's a bonus that will not be included in the final score. So yeah, you get that once you've done your homework. So I have an assortment of white and dark meat on a plate. This is all I'm gonna have for now. As good as this looks, I need to reserve room for the other chickens down the road. So. To reward yourself for all the hard work, a little sauce. I mean, as nice as the sauce is, it really just tastes like beef stock and butter. I'm not gonna tell you what I think of Julia's just yet. That will come at the end when we're talking about all of them. So it's gonna be based on technique and overall flavor, taste. Flavor or taste. At this present moment in time, I'm not sure what means what. My score has been officially jotted down, and I will not reveal it until the very end, once all 3 chickens have been enjoyed. Shall we move on to the next contestant? Next up, Marcella Hazan's The Essentials of Classic Italian Cooking. Okay, Marcella, show us the Italian way. Roast chicken with lemons. If this were a still life, its title would be Chicken with 2 Lemons. That is all that there is in it. No fat to cook with, no basting to do, no stuffing to prepare, no condiments except for salt and pepper. After you put the chicken in the oven, you turn it just once. The bird, its 2 lemons in the oven do all the rest. Again and again through the years, I meet people who come up to me and say, I have made your chicken with 2 lemons, and it is the most amazingly simple recipe. The juiciest, best tasting chicken I have ever had. And you know, It's perfectly true. That's what she said. This is like the polar opposite of Julia's recipe. Couldn't be more different. So there's the chicken, 2 lemons. Thank you. And that's all we need, right? Well, salt and pepper too. So let's get to it. So as quickly as we brought the chicken over here, I gotta wash it thoroughly, inside and out. Oh, hello, neck. The water needs to drain out of this for 10 minutes on like a slightly tilted angle. Trying to find a combination of things that is going to tilt that chicken was more difficult than you'd ever think. Give the chicken a pat dry. Sprinkle a generous amount of salt on top. Well, all over. Inside the cavity as well. Oy! In you go. And freshly cracked pepper. Generous amount. Hey, just grind up some pepper into my palm. Yeah. Into the cavity. Flip the bird, wash the mittens, salt up the other side, and pepper. Using my fingers, just kind of rub it all in, as well as into the cavity here. To the side, take the 2 lemons and roll them on the cutting board. Puncture the lemons in at least 20 places all over. I'm gonna use the trussing needle and just puncture, yeah. Lemons into the cavity. Close up the opening with a trussing needle and string. Okay, close it up well, but not absolutely airtight. Run some kitchen string from one leg to the other, tying at both knuckle ends. And then leaving the legs in their natural position without pulling them tight. If the skin is unbroken, the chicken will puff up as it cooks, and the string will serve only to keep the thighs from spreading apart and splitting the skin. Anything I have to do with the wings, just leave them. Spread, cool. Well, you don't need to spread them, just pop them in. Turn the oven on, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, but because of how efficient this thing is, 340. Level playing field, so I'm gonna keep using the same roasting pan for each bird. Chicken is breast side down, and I don't need to add any cooking fat of any kind. So, 2 things. This chicken is apparently self-basting, so I don't need to worry about it sticking to the pan. That's fantastic. Secondly, I'm holding off on puncturing the skin with like a probe thermometer or anything like that, because if I do so, then I risk the chicken not swelling up, turning into a balloon, as she says. So I'm just gonna hold off on doing that right now. In you go. Around half an hour to start, then we're gonna check on it. That's for me. All right, let's quickly just, you know what, let's just take this damn thing out. Super quickly, without puncturing the skin, I have to rotate the chicken. Do not puncture the skin, you punk. Although some of the skin got peeled on the leg. Oopsie. Get that back into the oven. Breast side up this time for another half an hour. And yes, that chicken has swelled up like a balloon. Booyah! After a full hour in the oven, I'm gonna turn the oven temperature up to 400 degrees F. Nope. For a regular oven, it would be 400 degrees F. For me, it's gonna be 390. She says it's gonna take around 20 to 25 minutes based on the weight of your bird. I'm gonna try to stick the probe into the breast meat as deep in there as I can get it and not piercing the skin. What are we at? Is this chicken done? To think on your feet with these old recipes. That took an hour. Fascinating. This might be the simplest roast chicken that has ever been roasted. All that rendered chicken fat, juices and whatnot is really remarkable how much gets cooked out of that. That came out of the roasting pan with just a chicken and lemon. It illustrates to me that maybe using all that butter like we did in the previous one may not be all that necessary. So we're gonna cut the strings off, but leave the lemons inside. Order up, part 2. I always forget I have this thing. Okay, carve it open with the lemons inside. Very juicy. You know, this is my high school job. I know what I'm doing right now. So she says the juices that run out of the chicken are beautiful to just kind of like pour on top. Check that out. Whoa. Same deal as Julia Child's one. I'm just gonna have a little of everything, see how it goes. skin test. Let's just say interesting development. This one has made me smile. Based on technique and flavor, Marcella, your recipe has been scored. Let's move on. Last cookbook is going to be Thomas Keller's Bouchon. He is a Michelin star chef. He's got plenty of restaurants around the US of A. And this one in particular, Bouchon, is like this French bistro kind of vibe to it. There's 2 roast chicken recipes in this book, so I had to choose between them. And the first one is a simple roast chicken that he makes just at home. But he includes the one that he serves at this restaurant, which is the very well-known recipe that I want to make. So yeah, I've already made up my mind. I'm making that one. When I roast a chicken, one of my favorite things to cook at home, I usually just salt it thoroughly and put it in a hot oven. But at the restaurant, we like to brine our chickens, which results in a very juicy, uniformly seasoned bird with deep brown, crispy skin. So let's get the brine started, and we gotta give ourselves some time. Oh, I've already done it. Let's go back in time. It's like 8 hours ago. Okay, so in my Dutch oven, I've added a gallon or 4 liters-ish of cold water. We are making a brine, so you're gonna need 1 cup of salt. 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm eyeballing it. 2 tablespoons of black peppercorns. 3 large rosemary sprigs. 1 large bunch of thyme sprigs. 1 large bunch of parsley sprigs while we're at it. The grated zest of 2 lemons. As well as the juice. Jeez. I need 1/2 cup of garlic cloves with the skin left on and crushed. Thomas Keller is definitely not driving today. He's taking the bus or something because this is 12 bay leaves. This is a personal record for me. Okay, a whole lot of nothing going on with those, right? I'm joking. I'm gonna figure out what they do one day. Don't worry. I can make like a bay leaf tea or something. One day. I don't know why I carried it like that. Boil for 1 minute. Turn off the heat. So the brine is completely cool. I sped up the process by just kind of having it in the freezer for a bit, and yeah, voila. So I've got my chicken here. It was rinsed off in running cold water, and it goes into the brine. Submerge that sucker. Thank you very much. This goes in the fridge for 6 hours. 6 hours. We got ourselves a brine chicken. Remove the chicken from the brine, discard the brine, and rinse the chicken. All right, give the chicken a pat down. So here's some kosher salt into this thing here, and some pepper into this thing. That way I don't have to keep mucking about with my hands. Everything is in here, just give that a mix, and in that goes to the cavity. Bye-bye. Lift the neck end of the bird and pull the twine down around the wing and under the chicken, then bring it up over the breasts. I don't think you needed the needle. Okay, so we're pulling it tight to plump the breasts, like a chicken bra. Tie the twine around the 2 drumsticks, pull it together, and form a compact bird. And then I gotta knot it up. Let this hang out room temperature for around 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, let's get the oven on. 475F. You know what that means for me. 465. Here we go. So I'm gonna use the same old braising dish. This time, I gotta get it on the heat. And then at the same time, I gotta season the outside of this chicken. Get some on the cutting board. That way you can take this and do that. Okay, when the pan is hot, add around a tablespoon of canola oil. Now we're adding the oil to the pan to avoid the skin of the bird from sticking to it, which is interesting because I just got finished making Marcella's recipe, and she said that chickens were like self-basting and I need not worry of it sticking to the pan. Well, he just says the opposite. What TK wants, TK gets. Hot pan, Gonna put the bird breast side up in the pan. So in between the leg and the thigh, he says, insert the probe. Now with this probe, I can monitor what the temperature is at all times instead of the guesswork, because with the other two recipes, I didn't do that. And it was more of like, what the hell's going on? Well, I know what's going on now. So we're good. Legs facing the back of the oven. Get the probe in there. Whenever I'm cooking chicken without this oven, I use an instant read thermometer and remove the bird when it hits 155. And then I let it sit until it reaches 165. But with this probe, I can just select the temperature, 155. Cool. This is probably gonna take a lot less time than the other two recipes because the oven's on higher. But he wants me to check the bird every 15 minutes, rotating it around, ensuring that I'm getting a nice even browning. So yeah, just keep monitoring the temperature of the oven. He says after 40 minutes you can insert the probe, but I've already probed it. Things are happening fast over here. It's like a deep brown, crispy skin, as promised. I guess that's what happens when you brine the chicken and the temperature of the oven. It's been only like 20 minutes or something, so it hasn't been a lot of time. He says the brine does dehydrate the skin because the salt pulls moisture from it as it adds flavor. If you see that the skin is beginning to brown too quickly, lay a sheet of foil over the bird to deflect the heat without trapping the steam and the moisture. Okay, I'm coming. I'm not even joking. That took 29 minutes. And that is a deep, dark, crispy skin. Couple teaspoons of chopped thyme leaves. Hope everyone's okay out there, but we got work to do. Baste the chicken with the juices. Look at all the moisture it just adds back into the skin. If you thought the skin was dry, it is not anymore. Let it sit in a warm spot for 10 minutes. Well, this is a warm spot. And it needs to come up to 165 degrees F, but that's gonna happen while it's resting. So that's fantastic. And let's remove the chicken from the pan. Oh, Thomas, you said the skin wouldn't stick to the pan. If I added oil, you said it wouldn't stick. It is stuck. It's okay, I got it. Alley-oop, twine comes off. That's it. Order up, part 3. So let's cut this one the same way we did the others. Separate the leg from the white meat to keep the breast intact with the wing, leg intact. You know, 14-year-old Jamie is in his element. Remove the spine. Whoa! How about a little fleur de sel? Wow, turned into an animal for a second eating this chicken. There's something in this chicken. This is how we're gonna grade or rank or score these 3 roast chickens, okay? It's based on technique and flavor. Each one of those is gonna get a score out of 10.
Julia Child!
Our girl, you know how much I love her, but the technique is a 6 out of 10. After cooking all 3 of those chickens, I realized how convoluted and unnecessary some of those steps are. It's rotating and basting, overload, and it just didn't seem necessary, especially after I've cooked all those other chickens. I'm like, well, Julia, what's the deal? So this kind of goes towards both technique and flavor, so let's just reveal the flavor score, which is an 8.5 out of 10. I use butter at large quantities on this show over here. It's just like, you know, I'm helping keep the industry alive. Not that I needed my help, but you know what I mean. In my humble opinion, I felt that Julia's recipe didn't need to include all that butter. I felt it relied on it. And I mean, that's totally up to you. If you want butter on your chicken, go for it. I mean, that's a very common and popular thing. But when I'm lining it up against the other 2 birds today, It felt out of place and kind of unnecessary. Here's the thing, I mean, I cook so many of these Julia recipes that, you know, not having butter is kind of a nice change of pace. So that's where I'm coming from. If you want the butter, go for the butter. You know I love butter. Is that for me? You guys don't like my score? I still thought it was really great. I thought it was a classic roast chicken flavor to it, you know? It was like juicy and it just tasted like a roast chicken should. But when I'm comparing it against the other two, that's where I stand. Let's move on to Marcella Hazan's roast chicken with lemon. For technique, it's a 10 out of 10. Super simple and straightforward. Just 2 ingredients, well 2 plus salt and pepper. So I mean, that was amazing to get that much flavor out of that thing with just that. It's my new go-to chicken recipe when cooking at home. So for flavor, I'm giving it a very good 9.5 out of 10. That's solid. You know, it had a very strong flavor, lemon running through that whole thing. It was nice and juicy still. And remember, it like puffed up. It was really cool, crispy skin on the outside and it puffed up like a balloon. It had a very fresh taste to it, but was there just a little too much? You could ease back on one of those lemons or cut one in half or whatever. I don't know, it'd be interesting to play around with it. It all depends on your mood. Also, I'm splitting hairs. All right, let's move on to Thomas Keller's roast chicken. And for technique, he's getting a 9 out of 10. Solid. Now, the only reason it has a point knocked off is because of the brine. And, you know, it's an investment of time. It's up to you if you want to do it. You know, time is valuable. Was well worth it in the end. And if I was going to make a roast chicken recipe for a big shebang, I wouldn't go with Marcella's, I would go with Thomas Keller's because it's a show-off chicken. Probably the nicest roast chicken I've ever cooked myself. For flavor, I'm going to give it a perfect score, 10 out of 10. Flavor-wise, it was addicting. I couldn't stop eating it. By far the juiciest chicken of the bunch, and it had the crispiest skin of the bunch, I believe. Now, it did take the longest to make because of the brine, but it took the least amount of time to roast. In this oven, somehow it only took like 29 minutes. So, that's incredible. I am a Julia Child stan. You know that, I love her. And it breaks my heart that she is placed bottom on this list, but those were 2 exceptionally great chickens. Marcella's for weekdays, TK's for special occasions. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. Julia's, I loved it. It's still great. See, the thing is, if
Julia's was matched up against 2 other chefs, you know, we'd have a different conversation.
Now for the very big news. Anova and I are teaming up. We're gonna do a giveaway. You know, I'm a big fan of all my fans, viewers, whoever's watching. I wish I could give each and every single one of you one of these ovens. So instead, we're giving away 2. What you gotta do is this, go to Instagram, follow me at Antichef Jamie. You gotta follow Anova as well, at Anova Culinary. And then you go to my feed, find the photo of me posing with this oven. You're gonna like it, and then you're gonna comment below it telling me why you would like such an oven. Then I'm gonna pick 2 people at random. That's it, that's all. Good luck. This was Jamie and Julia and Marcella and Thomas. Bon appetit. What the hell is going on out there? How am I supposed to score these chickens under these conditions?